Have you ever wondered why it is so difficult to have a good relationship? And why are they so good for us? Why is all the health information talking about mental health and loneliness and relationships being the antidote to the crisis of mental health that's going on in our society right now? Well, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why relationships are good for your health. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why relationships are so difficult and why we need good mental health in order to sustain and create good relationships. Welcome to Rise. You are in the right place. It's been a minute since I've filmed, and today we're filming from the beautiful, beautiful Basque Country in northern Spain. So I want to talk about relationships and how they add to the quality of life and how they create mental health. And we'll also go into how relationships can detract from our mental health. So stay tuned. Welcome. 3 reasons why human beings need relationships, need them for mental health and for survival. Number 1, human beings have been hardwired to be social creatures. In order to evolve and to develop societies, human beings needed to work together in groups. I mean, just imagine when we were cave people, we needed someone to help with food, to help raise children, to help us emotionally. We needed to exist and coexist in groups. Not only is this a nice thing and it's pleasant, but it's also in our brain to seek out groups and networks in order to thrive. There are people who have a really difficult time being with other people, and we'll talk about them later. But the thing is there is something deep in our brains that responds to the positive quality of being in a group that's working towards something, a common goal, so to speak. Number 2, the other reason why human beings need social relationships in order to thrive is that in our brains, we have these neurochemicals, and you've probably heard of them. Oxytocin, which is a really important social bonding molecule, and serotonin. Oxytocin is one of the most crucial bonding neurohormones out there. It's secreted when we hold a baby. It's secreted when we hug someone we care about or want to care about for that maybe 30 seconds, 10 to 30 seconds. You get this feeling that comes over you from a neurochemical called oxytocin. Oxytocin is a really strong chemical that's released when a mother is feeding her baby and there's eye contact in that connection. You get a lot of oxytocin going both ways, which really wires and gives feedback to this neural network. So feeding ourselves oxytocin through the positive encounter with other people goes in this network that's been instilled when we're little tiny infants, and it helps us to feel safe and loved. And that's a good feeling that we want. And the other chemical is serotonin. Serotonin is released when we feel calm and regulated and safe. We get that, from eating a meal with people we care about, from playing a game, a board game, or watching a TV show, or sharing something with other people. It could be reading together. It could be sitting by a fireplace and eating potato chips together. But it's something that we share with other people, and it's a very calming, neuroregulating hormone. And the thing is, serotonin is often depleted in states of depression and anxiety. So one of the ways we can cope is by finding positive social networks. When the going gets rough, it could even be the social experience of going to get your hair done. Number 3, loneliness. Loneliness is a real epidemic, and it is decreasing life quality and lifespan in populations of people. So social relationships are critical to combat loneliness. We have tremendous amounts of epidemiological information showing us that people's health, their hearts, their brains, their digestive systems are misfunctioning and not functioning optimally. They're not optimally functioning because they're lonely. People are lonely. They are not thriving. It is not good for mental health. So we need social relationships to combat loneliness. So these are 3 reasons why we need social relationships. Social relationships, people. Working with people in groups. Stay tuned, and I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why social relationships are so difficult and how to create optimal experiences and optimal states in your body to have good relationships. And if you like this content, check out my other videos, add a like, add a subscribe, and tell me what you think. Why are relationships so hard? They give you so much, but it can be so difficult to say good morning to the person serving you coffee, whether it's the barista or your friend or your partner. Why is it so hard to sustain good relationships? Well, there are 3 good reasons I can come up with. Number 1 is conflict resolution. When we love someone, when we care for somebody, when we spend time with someone, we're going to disagree. The quality of disagreement can make you feel really bad. It can distance you from someone. And for a lot of different reasons, disagreement is avoided. When we avoid disagreements and healthy conflict, we layer on reasons not to get along and not to be understood. In order to have good relationships, we need to be able to deal with conflict. In so many societies, we're taught, don't just get along. Don't bring it up. Well, I'm going to encourage you to, in the best way, in the most sustainable way possible, bring up the fact that, well, you've been making my coffee black and strong, but you know what? I really prefer it a little weaker. I really appreciate what you're doing for me, but this isn't working. Or to the barista, hey, good morning. It's great to see you. Just cold. See what happens. You don't always have to get a warm smile in return, but you're paving the way for a less conflictual day for that barista and also for yourself, because when you're able to stand up to something that even a minor thing that you disagree with, you develop self-confidence. And you also are wiring your pathways in your brain that we're all working together in a social group. And that is really good for your health. So I'm going to ask you to look in your life at areas where there are high levels of conflict. It could be at school, for example, disagreeing with a teacher. And there are areas where you may not have control over the outcome of your grade, but you get practice discussing something that upsets you in a way that's good for you, that's sustainable, and you understand yourself better rather than just minimizing it and saying, who cares? You actually go through something where you learn. And learning how to deal with no's in your life, or learning how to say no to things in your life, will help you to ultimately have a better relationship with yourself and with the world, and this will help your mental health. A number 2 reason for relationships being so hard is that we're really concerned with being understood and met and received empathically with another person. And it's not always going to happen that way. And there are so many reasons why it's difficult to be understood. I mean, number 1 is, who learns good conflict resolution? Number 2, do we see it role modeled on TV, in our life, on social media? And, being understood is a very intimate and special experience. And I'm telling you, I'm a psychiatrist. I've been doing it for 25 years now. A lot of people don't even understand themselves and understand their motivations. So, coming into a relationship expecting to be understood from the person who you buy your jeans from in the mall, to the barista, to your partner, or even to your intimate friend. I mean, they're all levels that we have to have expectations about. And we're not always going to be understood. And if we can come to terms with that and learn about ourselves more, we have so much more chances of being understood in the world or not being understood. Not being understood isn't necessarily a personal issue. It isn't necessarily that the person is against you personally and it's an attack, but it can feel like it, all right? It can feel like it, and that's why relationships are so hard, because when we aren't understood, it can be a really difficult experience. And so I'm going to encourage you to take time to understand who you are and take time to pull back from interactions and taking them personally necessarily. And that will give you space in order to develop a better relationship with yourself and with the world. The number 3 reason why relationships are so difficult is our own anxiety. And this is complicated because anxiety feeds difficult relationships and being isolated and just wanting to retreat. I mean, when someone's anxious, you just kind of want to stay in bed or just isolate. That is often what people do as a response to high anxiety. But when we do that too much, we feed our anxiety and it gets worse and it gets harder to interact and it gets harder to deal with conflict because anxiety is so big and we just don't want to grow it anymore. That is a massive problem in society right now. It's a huge problem every day in mental health treatment. Anxiety is terrible for relationships, and relationships are part of the treatment for anxiety. So one way you can deal with anxiety in relationships is getting a good therapist or a good psychiatrist or a good counselor, learning about yourself and learning how to quiet your own anxiety. And often, heck, most of the time, a good therapeutic relationship is a model for how to have relationships in the world. And ideally, you will have conflict with the person who's giving you therapy and learn in that session how to contain it, what it feels like, and how to deal with it, how we get anxious in relationships when there's conflict. And in a good therapeutic relationship, the person who's doing therapy is able to help you with that conflict and that anxiety and help you work it through in a way that helps you understand yourself. And that's how we deal with anxiety in relationships, is we take that to a therapeutic relationship. And I really encourage people when they are going through high anxiety to develop therapeutic relationships and to learn about relationships through other people who have good relationships. Ask them, how did you meet your friends? How did you meet your partner? Learn from other people that you trust. And one of the ways to do that is also to find good social media outlets that teach people ways to have relationships, to deal with conflict, not to separate and divide and build up anxiety, build up rage and frustration, but to help us move through these uncomfortable feelings so we can come together, have better mental health, and develop sustainable relationships with ourselves and with the world. I hope this helps. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.